to see you for my Wednesday night question and answer. It always amazes me. I get such great questions every week, and I feel so bad that I can't answer all of them. But we have four really terrific questions tonight, and they are touching on actually maybe three different topics. The first is about issues around going no contact. That's the first and second. The third is about the financial hit so many women have when their husbands leave, and how that contributes to the thing of victimization. And the final one is it's a question about how the dynamics from your childhood may have come into play that led you into this situation of being abandoned. So let's get to it. So the first question is from Lynn, and she writes, I'm so excited to hear this. I want to know what you think about the anxiety that remains even a couple of years after. It seems like people can feel this way for a long time. I wish I could go all the way to no contact, but we share a 2-year-old, and because of a court order, he has the right to FaceTime my son. It makes me feel so anxious to have any interaction with him and his new family. When does this feeling of anxiety go away? So I think this is a question that a lot of people can relate to, and I certainly could have related to it back when my husband had initially left. And it's that terrible feeling of anxiety, just hearing anything about him, knowing that you have to see him, reading an email, see his name, that there's an email coming in, and it's so difficult to deal with that anxiety and that stress. And really, it's a primary part of the healing from wife abandonment. And what that's about is diminishing his emotional power over you. Just a guy. And although it feels like he has all of this emotional power over you, that you have to work on yourself to turn down the dial so that when you have to, Lynn has to be in touch with him. She's a 2-year-old. Her 2-year-old can't get on the computer and FaceTime his dad. So she has to be there, she the intermediary, and make that happen. And so I think, Lynn, what you need to do is to really, it's not a question of time. It's not, because you still have that fear and that anxiety years later, even longer than 2 years. So it's a question of you making the decision that you're going to work on yourself to diminish his power and more emotionally distant from you. I'm sure that he doesn't feel anxious when he's in touch with you. For the most part, the men who leave have moved on, and emotionally they're not all that caught up, and the women are the ones who are trapped. But it means working on yourself to say, no, I'm not going to give him this power over me. I'm going to fight to be able to feel neutral when I have to deal with him, when I have to contact him, when every 2-3 days, when I have to get on the phone and FaceTime him with our son. I'm deciding how I'm going to feel about it, and I am choosing to feel neutral and to not let him have all of that power over me. So it's a matter of doing whatever it takes to work on your anxiety, to get into the right frame of mind, to do some breathing, to maybe make some affirmations that you say to yourself before that FaceTime call comes through, to do some work on it, and not just hope that it's going to sort of diminish and drift away. It may, and time is a great healer. But if you feel that it's really lagging on, then what that means is that you have to work on yourself to retrain your brain to not let this guy have so much power over you. So the next question is from Susan, and she says, I've read the importance of no contact and have been extremely diligent in practicing it. However, There are moments when I want to write to my runaway husband and set out the pain he caused and the total chaos he caused in our little family. Why is this not advisable? Or is it? And he has. I know. Sometimes I lost, and everybody fights it and loses. And the question from Susan is, why is it not advisable? And there's a very good answer why advisable. The answer is that in writing to him and telling him that pain is, you're hoping that it will touch him and that he'll feel bad and that it will make him rethink the way he's dealt with you and treated you. And in my experience over the many years, since I've worked with so many women on this, that never happens. Instead, you might get nothing, no response, or might get an annoyed response that says something like, get over it already. And not to do it really has very little to do with him. It has to do with you. You're not going to get the satisfaction that you want. Many times women feel put out their emotion, put their heart on the line and put out their emotional state to him and were rejected again. So you're setting yourself up to risk for that risk of being rejected again. And that's the reason not to do it. If he were disposed to feel that kind of compassion, you would have seen it by now. So typically I don't recommend it, and I do believe that no contact, if you can do it, is psychologically healthier for you in this kind of situation. So the next question is from Carolina, and she says, how do women move beyond the anger and sense of victimization from the financial devastation the divorce often causes? We are often left in a diminished financial situation after he leaves. Thus, we see him more quickly financially rebounding, while many of us are now working more and living with less. To me, the financial hit can feel like another layer of feeling victimized, one that's hard to move beyond. And boy, Carolina, are you right. And that is true of many, many women in our situation. That he often has the more career and maybe, a easier breadwinner for himself. And that once the divorce is over and everything has been separated, he goes on to continue to make money. And some women have to go back to work or start work, at an older age and don't have the earning power. And that sense of injustice and how it's just not right, it's not fair, can really eat away at you. And the answer that I have to Carolina and to others in the same situation is that once you recognize you're in that situation, you are in a more financially fragile state than maybe you were when you were married. You're seeing him rebounding, doing well financially. Again, you have to work on yourself to say that sense of victimization doesn't really bring you anything. This is something that happened in your life. It's not fair, but it's a fact of your life, and you have a choice. And this is true in so many situations. You have a choice to make, which is, am I going to highlight and really focus on that negativity and that feeling of outrage and injustice that just keeps you feeling hurt every day? Or are you going to say, this is my life now. I'm going to not be focusing on him and what he's doing in his life because I have a life to live and I have a future to build. And whatever it means, whether I don't have the kind of financial security, this is my reality. And I want to diminish his importance in my life and say, I have to take what life has given me. I have to be able to appreciate the good things that I have in my life. and not just focus on this negativity because it doesn't bring you anywhere healthy. So again, it's working on your mental health to be able to say, it's a hard thing to swallow, but I don't have any other choice. And I don't want to be bitter and angry every day of my life. I want to look at, my beautiful world, and I want to build a future for myself. The final question comes from Sarah, and she asks, can a poor relationship with your primary caregiver during childhood, which perhaps leads to an attachment disorder, predispose you to spousal abandonment? So I want to explain that a little bit. Attachment disorder means if you were not cared for appropriately in your childhood by one or both of your parents, it might make you feel nervous about being attached to anybody, because when you were a small child, being attached to your primary caregiver was not secure. It wasn't safe. And what Sarah's asking is whether I believe that contributed to being in this situation, to having been abandoned. And my answer is no. I really don't think that in some subconscious way we chose somebody who would eventually come to abandon us, for most people. I just really don't think that that's the case. I know, having lived through it, that abandonment was not an issue, definitely not an issue for me. And there was no way that I could have anticipated that my husband was going to walk out in the way that he did. So I really don't think that, in a sense, it's sort of like blaming the victim to say that, and I know, Sarah, you don't mean to do that, but to say that you're in this situation because of something inside of you that maybe drew this abandoner to you. But really, I don't think that's the case. I've met with so many women who come from all different kinds of backgrounds. Some of them very secure, very happy childhoods. We all come from different places and have different kinds of experiences in our childhood. But I don't think that it's a predictor that as an adult that you're going to be in an abandoning relationship. So that's it for tonight. I hope you're well. I hope you're safe. And I will look forward to seeing you again next week. Take care.